Okay, so I've started the recording. So let me so Selena, before I answer your question, let me quickly first take you through the small presentation that I have. So this presentation is based on the comments that I've received or the feedback that I've received. If you remember, last week I sent out a small survey, uh, and I wanted some feedback regarding it. So let me share that in a minute. Let me first go to projector only. Perfect. So we are on projector, which means that it will seem that I am looking up, which I am because my laptop now is on the side. And can share the screen share. Let me make this big. And let's see. Perfect. So can you all see that? Chat. Let me open the, what is it being said in the chat one? Let me, just one second. Alt H, can I not see that? Okay, I'll have to stop share to look at the chat. Okay. So yes, Kari, I'll answer that in a minute. So let me go back to share screen again. Make this smaller. Okay. Perfect. So first of all, can you all see the screen? Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Okay. So so this basically is basically a summary of the feedback that I've received, and I quickly wanted to show to share some of the comments. So without further ado, let's move forward. So I wanted to ask, I wanted to gauge in terms of what is needed to be done in terms of the quality of the recorded lectures. So most of you rated it in the very satisfied to somewhat satisfied category. I was happy to see that no one said that they are very dissatisfied with it. There was a small percentage which said they are not satisfied with it, which is perfectly fine. I was more interested in the people who said somewhat satisfied and not satisfied. What follow-up comments do they have? So I was more interested in terms of if you're not very satisfied, then what are those steps that I can take to move you from this bucket to this bucket? So so I'll have those comments in the last two slides, but I just wanted to share this slide as well. So this is something that I really wanted to gauge because there is an ongoing debate between several faculty members in terms of the proportion of the lectures that should be synchronous. So when I say the word, or when I use the word synchronous, basically what I mean is how many of the lectures should be live and whether they should be mandatory or not. So in order for us to have sessions mandatory and live, this and even this is an issue, because unless people have access either all the time or most of the time, you can't force them to attend a live session. Fortunately, there is a very small percentage which is in this category as far as our class goes, which is a positive sign. So this is something that we can discuss moving on as well. Now, so these are some of the positive comments. I will not go through the positive comments, but essentially what a lot of people were saying is that the videos are okay. The setup of having at least once a week Zoom session where the students can ask questions and see if the material is understood is a decent one. Everything is good, etc., etc. So again, I mean, the lecture is being recorded. You can look at these comments. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. What I do want to spend some time on is what is being said in the next slide. So these are the suggestions or some of the negative comments that I received. So I've not posted all of them, but basically whatever comments that I received, I categorize them in different categories. So if your specific comment is not there, it relates to some of the categories that are here. So let me go through them one by one. The first one related to the time at which the lectures are posted. So post the lectures before on Monday, Wednesday class time. So I have tried to do it for the next week. So if you notice, the lectures that are assigned for next week are the lectures related to supply chain management, and I've already posted the lectures online. So when I say lectures, I am referring to the video lectures. So those video lectures are already online, and then if you want, you can go through those lectures during your regular Monday session or Monday time. If you mean that the Monday, Wednesday class times should be held at regular times, now this is something that is up for debate, and we can discuss this in some length afterwards. I was very surprised that there were quite a few comments that related to more work. So, I mean, specifically, so someone said more real-time lectures for accountability and real-time questions from the class. We have at least one session a week, which gives you the opportunity for real-time questions. Make the Zoom sessions mandatory. So I'm not in the favor of making them mandatory. I will, however, record them. So the reason I can't make them mandatory is because let me go to this comment. So this comment actually related to the exam, but this very well applies to to our weekly Zoom session as well. So this person said, perhaps no time limit on the tests or have a larger open window to where the students can access after work. Personally, I am an essential worker and my schedule is crazy. So this actually comment, it actually made me think, and I gave this comment a lot of thought. And predominantly for people like this, it is very difficult for me to make Zoom sessions mandatory. And I don't think so the Zoom sessions will be mandatory. But for people who want to attend them, I mean, I would appreciate people who are attending them on a regular basis. For other people who can't attend for a variety of reasons, the recording would be there. So perhaps on some independent study materials we can go over in our own time, such as more readings, links, etc. So if you are one of the students in this category, please send me an email separately. I will give you independent study materials. Those obviously would not be tested, and those would not be on the exam. But there is a lot of stuff that I'm going through these days, especially related to supply chain management. Because most of the problems that we are facing, the non-medical related problems, like shortage of toilet papers and limits on buying milk and etc., all of them are more or less supply chain issues. So if you are interested in those topics, email me separately. I'll send you the links. I'll send you some independent study materials as well. But I want to rephrase, those would not be on the exam, and you obviously would not be tested. So with that said, beyond these things, most of the comments were regarding the exam and the grades. So comments like more exam time, more curve, make all exams equally weighted. So I absolutely can't make all exams equally weighted. This is something that we agreed on when the semester started. So in the beginning of the semester, we said that there will be 3 exams. The first one will be 15%, the second one will be 25%, and the third one will be 35%. So I have not really changed those percentages. Regarding more exam time, yeah, sure. I mean, in the final exam, we can definitely have more exam time. Having said that, in my defense, this exam, the midterm, the second midterm, was designed to be easier than a usual midterm. Because in a usual midterm, you get 60 minutes and you get 30 plus questions. If I remember, this one was an hour and 15 minutes and there were only 25 questions. But I completely understand this is an unusual setting. And obviously we don't have the luxury of meeting on a weekly basis, so we can't really go through your live questions. So yeah, in final exam, I'll definitely extend the time beyond the usual time. So maybe we'll have 1.5 times the time, or maybe 2 times, depending upon whatever the class decides. I have no issues in terms of giving more time. Give examples more similar to exam. Okay, so this is an interesting comment. The reason I say this is because if you go through the video lectures, there was not a single question in the midterm that we did not discuss in our video lectures. All the questions in the midterm exam were discussed in our video lectures. The numbers might be different, but the questions were exactly the same. So what I mean by that is, let's take a hypothetical question. Let's say it was a three-step. Let's say there was a question on three steps or three tasks being performed simultaneously. If in the video lecture we discussed times of 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 4 minutes, the exam might have different times of, let's say, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. But the type of questions, every single question that was in the midterm was there in the video lecture. The only thing that I did was I just changed the numbers. So more similar to exam plus solutions. In my worldview, we did that. Please let me know if there was a question on the midterm exam that we did not go through in our video lecture. I will try to do the same for the final exam as well. And this, historically, this has been the trend as well. I mean, generally, in the review session or in the sessions before, I do go through similar questions that will show up on the exam. When I say similar, it means that that the method to solve the problem would be exactly the same, but obviously the numbers would be different. So I can't give you the exact same problem, but the problem would be similar, but the question. So for example, there was a question on cashier utilization and bagger utilization. Now that question was there in the assignment. We did discuss that question in the review session, and the same question appeared on the midterm as well. The only difference was that the numbers were slightly different in the midterm. So yeah, I mean, I would actually love to get more feedback from you in terms of your comments, in terms of what to do regarding this one or the first one as well. Contact administration about implementing a credit no credit system. So they're already discussing it. I think I did write to all of you in my previous post that the University Senate has already approved this. So the University Senate has already sent their recommendations to the University administration that there should be an option of credit no credit system for students. I mean, right now it's a recommendation, but I would be very, very surprised if they don't pass it. So we will hear something about this very soon. As soon as I hear something from the administration regarding this one, I will definitely email all of you. As of now, my view is that this would definitely be implemented. And I think the additional factor in this one, which I think is a good thing, is that it would be given as an option. So if you want to have a credit, no credit on your resume, on your transcript, it will show up. And I think the semester would say COVID-19 or something like this. But if you don't want this, then you also have the option of not having this on your resume. As soon as I hear something about this from the administration, I will let you know accordingly. So far, we have not heard anything. But again, they are discussing it. The University Senate has already approved of it. Perhaps no time limit on that. Okay, so I've already gone through this comment before. Now, if you are an essential worker, or if within a time frame for which the entire class is giving that, let me just get a person in. Okay, so if the entire so let's say there's a 4-hour time slot. If you cannot sit for the exam during those 4 hours because of any reason, let me know separately. I have the option of giving you a separate window, but unfortunately, I have to have a time limit. Otherwise, there are many administration issues in terms of the testing itself. So if the test is there for like 48 hours, 72 hours, there are other issues that I have to deal with. So that's why even for the final exam, there will be a time limit. So let's say the test will be open for 4 hours or 5 hours, and you will be given, let's say, an hour and a half or 2 hours to do the exam. Now, if you cannot do the exam in those 4 hours or 5 hours, let me know, email me, and I can set up a different time for you. But there will be a time limit. So with that said, there were some other comments which did not fall in one of these categories. So record all review lectures. I am already recording it. Thank you for this suggestion. I think it's a great suggestion. Let me admit this. Okay, so not give too much difficult content. Okay, Okay, let's discuss that in a couple of minutes as well. Optional classes was moved to Wednesday 11:30 to 12:30. I have class during that time and it is inconvenient. I understand. However, this is the time that most of you picked up. I hope recording this will help you in that regard. Again, if you have questions that you are unable to ask because you cannot attend the review session, please email me those questions separately, or you can always post those questions on the forum. So I keep on referring to the forum, and I think there was one student who asked that what exactly do you mean by that forum. So let me. So I hope you can all see the screen. So basically, if you log into Titanium and go to your course, it says over here, forum for discussing your questions. Any question that you have, I would highly encourage you to post it over here. Just by the virtue of you being posting your question would help out a lot of other students as well, because not all students would want to post their questions here. So I would highly encourage you to post any questions that you have over here. And I would generally, I look at it every Monday and Wednesday, and I will post my detailed answer as well. If you have posted a question here and I have not answered you, please remind me. I don't think so that would happen because I generally look at it 2 times or 3 times a week. So this is for section 20. For people from section 6, again, when you log into your Titanium and go to your course, you will have a similar forum over here, which says forum for discussing your questions. So with that said, yeah, I mean, that's all what I wanted to discuss regarding this. I'll keep this over here so that if you have any questions, you can ask. I will now move to your chat questions and see what questions do you have. Okay, so the first question is from Selena. It says, any suggestions for the simulation? I did it, but I did bad. Okay, and then there's a similar question on the simulation. Are we being graded based on performance on the simulation or completion? Okay, so that's both of them actually are similar questions. So the simple answer is that you are being graded on completion, not on your performance. However, if you perform well, that's good. So basically, essentially what I've done in the past is anyone who got less than 90% on the simulation, I automatically give them 90%. So you will end up with 90% if you scored less than 90%. However, if someone scored more than 90%, then it stays as it is. My only recommendation for the simulation, I don't know, Selena, which simulation you did. Was it the project management one or the supply chain one? Assuming it was a project management one, as long as you, so there are, in the project management one, there are 2 criteria. The first one is is saving $18,000 for yourself, which in essence means keeping your costs under $162,000. And the second one is 125 days, right? If you achieve one of them and do not overshot the other one by a huge margin, you should be able to get a reasonably good score. So for example, if your cost is let's say around $161,000 and you did it in 127 days. So you are a little over time, but I think the simulation should give you 90 plus. If you did not achieve any one of them, then obviously it's a problem. But having said that, as I said, anyone who scores less than 90%, I will automatically change it to 90%. If someone has scored higher than 90%, the score will remain as is. Are there any questions regarding the simulations? So let's first discuss the simulations. And if there are more questions regarding simulations, I'll take those. If not, then I'll shift to, or I'll move to other questions. And again, I have this big screen in front of me, so I am referring to the big screen, but the camera is over here. So that's why I keep on switching like this. So any more questions regarding the simulations? I am assuming no. Are we good? So, okay. I am assuming that everyone is good. Okay. Then there's a question, I think it's John. John says, what kind of questions can you expect on final exam? So the final exam would be very, very similar to the second midterm. So the second, and I think I did categorically discuss this in the beginning of the course as well. And I said that generally the first midterm tends to be more theoretical. That is predominantly because the concepts that we discuss in the first part of the course are mostly general management related topics. And I said that as soon as we will move to the second part of the course and the third part of the course, it will be all operations management. And operations management generally tends to be, not generally, I mean, operations management is a quant heavy topic. So that's why the second midterm and the third midterm have significantly more quantitative problems than the first one. In terms of the layout, the final will be very, very similar to the second midterm. Both in terms of the type of questions, in terms of the length, and in terms of the division between the problems and the theory. The most important chapter for the final exam is chapter 13, which is inventory management. We have not started discussing that chapter, but we will do that very soon. Okay, so any more questions? And for people who are mute, I don't know whether I have muted them or they are. I think you have the option of unmuting yourself. If not, let me know. You can type it in the chat and I will unmute everyone. Okay, thank you. Also, chapter 14 is not, no, chapter 14 is not included in the final. The reason chapter 14 is not included in the final is because in the regular session, if there was a regular session, we would have played a business game, a board game, which basically explains supply chain management. And then there's a small lecture which is based on that game. Since we're not playing the game and we're not having that lecture, that's why chapter 14 will not be there in the final exam. I will post a study guide relatively soon, and you will see in that study guide that chapter 14 will not be included in the final exam. Other questions?
Hi, this is Kylie. I have a question about our grades.
Yeah.
So I know that in class you said that you curving us and giving the whole class extra points doesn't really do anything. So I was wondering like how we can like measure how well we're doing in the class right now. Because I know you said that if you're closer to the average, then you're not doing as well. If like, for example, you're 20% above the average or something.
Yes. Okay. So let me first rephrase your comment a little bit. So I don't think so I ever said that if you're close to the average, you're not doing well. I mean, if your expectation from the course was that you just want an average grade, then you are doing exactly what you wanted to do, right? So I actually never, or I mean, I shouldn't use the word never. I very rarely judge people based on their performance, right? So my view is that your performance is predominantly in your own hands. Essentially, what I meant was that if you want to have a better grade than the average grade, then you have to be far away from the average. So, and generally the class average, and this is something that I wanted to, and I did explain this earlier as well, but I'll explain it again. We actually are bounded by the college policy in terms of what the average grade of the class will be. And even under current circumstances, we have received no news in terms of whether we can relax that. So in other words, there are things that we can play around with, but in terms of maintaining an average grade of the class, I actually, if I don't stick by the college guidelines, then I have to explain it to my head of the department and then to the dean. Generally speaking, for a 300 level course, regardless of whether it's a management course or a marketing course or an accounting course or an ISDS course or an econ course, all 300 level courses in Mahalo generally have an average of around between C plus and B minus. So you have that red range, but the average grade of the class is between a C minus and a B minus and a C plus. So historically, my class average has always been closer to a B minus. And that is essentially what I intend to do this time around as well, unless the college gives us some kind of a relaxation. So far, there is no news of any relaxation. So my view has always been, and it is still the same, is that if you're okay with a B minus, then as long as you're on class average, you're around class average, you will hopefully get a B minus. If you're not okay with a B minus, you have to be farther away from the class average. And moving that, so if the class average, so what I meant, so to explain your comment further, if the class average is at 60 and you are at 70, it doesn't matter whether you, in absolute terms, whether you have 70 or not. What matters is you are 10 points away from the class average. So your grade would be significantly higher than the class average. If the class average is, let's say, 80 and you are 80, again, you are at the class average, right? So you will get the class average. And that's why I meant that moving the class average doesn't really make a big difference, because it depends how far away you're from the class average. And that's why this is something that I said earlier, that curving is basically a method of it has a feel good factor. But in essence, if you believe in a normal distribution curve, and if you grade based on that curve, then it doesn't really matter where the average is. What matters is how far away you are from the average. Does that answer your question, Kylie?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So basically, in summary, be as far away from the class average as you can be. Right now, the class average is 78, right? So if you are farther away from 78, then you're doing very good. If you wanted to have a grade higher than B minus. Okay, so I don't know if you answered this, but did you cover the material from your lecture videos to complete assignment number 3? Yes, I watched the project management. Okay, so that's a good question. Yes, Selena. So basically, the third assignment is all about project management. And if you have already gone through the video lecture on project management, you can do assignment number 3. All the questions in assignment number 3 are related to project management. I am very flexible with the dates, both for the assignments and the simulations. And if you want those days changed, let me know. I will change those dates. I have, as long as we are getting done through all of them before our final exam, I'm fine with them. My view is, I mean, the way I have assigned the dates is that I want to have some structure. So I want you to go through assignment number 3 and the project management simulation before you move on to supply chain topic and the supply chain simulation. And the same thing will go for inventory management as well. But if for some reason you cannot do the assignments, let me know. I have absolutely no hesitation in changing the dates. And again, the reason those dates are there right now is to have some consistency in how you are going through the lectures. If not, I will change that. Any other questions? By the way, if there are any questions regarding this, let me know as well. So when I say regarding this, I mean, I'm talking about your suggestions. Can we get our current grade if we send? Actually, yeah, so that's a good question. So let me share something else with you. So this is something that we generally do towards the end of the course. And so far we have not really approached that stage, but I am more than willing to share this before time as well. So can you all see the Excel file? I think I'm sharing my, yes, okay, perfect. Okay, so this is what I call a grade simulator. So basically it's a very simple Excel file which has all the items listed and their weights, and then you can enter your own scores. And the reason I generally post it before the final exam is it acts as sort of a so you can set yourself a target in terms of what you should be doing in the final exam to get to a grade that you want, right? So for example, if you scored the average in the first midterm, 78, and you were on average in the second midterm, which is 78 as well. Let's say in the first quiz you got 7. In second quiz, more or less everyone will get 10, 100%, which is because the second quiz will be merged with the simulations. And let's say in the third quiz you got 8, right? In the assignments, I'm assuming all of you will get 100, 100, 100. Let's say in simulations, I'm assuming 100 as well. Actually, let's make them 90, 90, 90, 90, right? In Lamson case, everyone will get 100% as well because we don't have a case anymore. And let's say in participation, you got 4 out of 5, right? Which is 80%. Now, if this is what you have right now, your score is 53.4%. And the only thing that is not there is the final exam. So if you end up having the average in the final exam as well, which is 78, you will end up with 80.7, which I think is a B. So, so what I'll do is I'll post this Excel file on Titanium. You can enter your own scores, and then you can set up a target for yourself in terms of uh, what kind of grade do you want to target for your final exam to get to a total course grade that you should have. So, for example, if a person is not happy so far, that person has been on average, but wants to improve and wants to get a 90. So then obviously the total will change to roughly an 85%, which now you're getting into B plus / A minus category. So those are the things that you can play around with. I will post it on Titanium, and that will give you some idea of what sort of a grade you should be targeting for the final exam. Okay, what was our quiz 2 and quiz 3? So quiz 2, actually, we never had a quiz 2. So we decided to merge the weight of the quiz 2 into the simulations. So basically, this quiz will be added over here. So that's why right now I'm giving you 100 out of 100 or 10 out of 10. The third quiz is something that comes towards the end of the end of our course. We have not gone through quiz 3 yet. I'm just saying this is target. Let me change a different color. So this is target, and this is target as well. So target means, I mean, this is something that you should plan for, right? So let's say, and by the way, this is only 1.67%, so it's not a huge impact on your final grade, which is over here. But the highest impact on your final grade right now is the final exam. You're welcome. So I am going to post this on Titanium, and you can enter your grades and see how you're performing. Or how much do you need to, what do you need to do in the final exam to get to a grade that you want? Any other questions? No, the final is not cumulative, Serena. So by policy, it should be cumulative, but I said there are some policies that you can play around with. So it is not. But don't quote me out. Don't quote me on it, please. It would be a big problem for me. So are there any other questions? By the way, I'm going to post this lecture, and then this will be documented that I said that it's not cumulative and I'm going against policy. So yeah, that could be a problem. Anything else? You're welcome. So, if there are no more questions, this is what I recommend. What I recommend is that over the weekend, you go through 3 things. If you have not gone through the video lecture of project management, I highly recommend that you go through that lecture and then complete assignment number 3 and the simulation, because these 3 things are all related to project management. So once you're done with the project management, then your target for the next week should be go through the lecture on supply chain management and conduct a simulation related to supply chain management. Once you're done, then by that time I would have posted lectures related to inventory management. So let me open up the course schedule. Okay, so this is what the revised course schedule looks like. So this is what I'm recommending. What I'm recommending is that over the weekend, you should complete this and this. Right? This is not due for a little while, but I mean, since you would have gone through the lecture, all the questions in this assignment are related to this lecture. So go through the lecture, go through the simulation, and complete the assignment. You will be done with project management. Then the target for next week should be go through these 2. I've already uploaded a lecture for supply chain design, and I've already assigned the simulation as well. Once you're done with this, then by that time I would have uploaded the lectures, or I would have started uploading lectures related to inventory management. Now this is a long chapter, and it's a relatively complex chapter as well. So I will upload the lectures not in one go, but I'll upload them one by one. And yeah, I mean, that's my recommendation. If you have any questions, I would love to take your questions. If not, then I will see you next week. So any questions? No? Seems so. Perfect. So then, yeah, stay safe, stay indoors, and I'll see you next week. Take care, guys.